Shalom Avracha. At the end of Sefer Bereshis, Yaaakov Avinu does not withhold his vehement condemnation of Shimon and Levy. Instead of giving them a bracha, he says, Arura pam ki az. He gives them a curse. He says, Shimon and Levy have taken hold of tools of violence, of rage, and therefore they don't get a bracha, but rather they get a curse. But in our parsha, in the aftermath of the story that Shimon and Levy destroy and kill all of the male inhabitants of Shechem, Yaakov Avinu does not condemn them on a moral level. Rather, he makes a political claim. He says, Achartem osi lahavisheni b'yoshev haaretz. He says that you have undermined my security, our security, among the tribes, among the local tribes, because they will now attack us in retaliation for the destruction and the pillage, the killing of Shechem, and we will not be able to defend ourselves. And it's the brothers who take the moral high ground, and they tell him, Hakazoina yaseh achosenu. Is it possible that he will make our sister into a harlot? How can we not stand up for our sister? And the psukim in our parsha, they seem to vindicate the brothers' claim, because Hashem places fear into the hearts of the surrounding tribes, and they do not attack Yaakov Avinu and his family, and therefore they're able to proceed peacefully. And the question is, why doesn't Yaakov Avinu take up the moral argument in our parsha like he does at the end of Bereshis? Why does he only mention the political claim rather than the moral argument that clearly is burning in his heart? And perhaps the answer is that Yaakov Avinu is unable, he is, as it were, forbidden from raising moral arguments related to deception and to fraud and other elements of immoral behavior. And the reason for this is because he started it. Yaakov Avinu, when he takes the brachos by deception from Esav, his brother, meaning he deceives Yitzchak into thinking that he is Esav and takes the blessings in his place, this opens up a doorway into an entire world of deception, of fraudulent behavior that envelops Yaakov Avinu throughout his life. It begins, of course, with Rachel and Leah, that Leah is switched for Rachel, and in place of Rachel, Yaakov Avinu marries Leah. It carries on with the other forms of deception that Lavan engages in, continues in our parsha with the story of Shechem, of Shimon and Levy, and later on, of course, with the sale of Yosef, that the brothers bring Yosef's robe, Yosef's coat, to Yaakov Avinu to demonstrate that he was killed. And Yaakov believes for many decades that Yosef was murdered, that Yosef was killed. And it doesn't end there. There are other episodes or other cases of deception within the life of Yaakov Avinu. For example, Tamar and Yehuda and Reuven with the brothers, and other instances of deception, meaning Yaakov's entire life, entire surroundings are steeped with deception. But this began somewhere. It began with Yaakov's own deception, of course inspired by his mother Rivka of Yitzchak Avinu. That's not to say that Yaakov Avinu was wrong in doing this. However, it means that Yaakov is silenced. He's unable to react. He's unable to give rebuke in the matter of fraud. And indeed, the Medrash mentions that Yaakov Avinu tells Leah, how dare you? You're a fraud, the daughter of a fraud, your father. How dare you answer me when I called Rachel, and you answer me as though you are Rachel herself? And what's her answer, says the Bereshis Rabbah? I learned it from you. Yitzchak Avinu calls out the name of Esav, and you answer as though you were Esav. That's the Medrash, but the Psukim are silent. Yaakov Avinu is unable, he's silenced from raising this claim. And even when Lavan catches him up, and Yaakov Avinu tells him, I worked with full commitment and loyalty, and this is the evil that you paid me back for. There's one great evil that Yaakov Avinu doesn't mention, the greatest deception in history, replacing Rachel with Leah. Yaakov Avinu doesn't mention it. He's unable to mention the deception, the fraud, because it all begins with him. And the same thing in our parasha. He's unable to tell his own children, Shimon and Levy, the moral claim, because he's, so to speak, silenced from being able to raise the morality, the moral issues, because it began with him. However, on his deathbed, at the time when he passes on his legacy to his children, there he says it in no uncertain terms. He condemns his children, Shimon and Levy, for killing the city, and he condemns them on moral grounds. And he says, my legacy cannot include this action. My glory, he says, my honor cannot dwell with Shimon and Levy. And we learn from here a remarkable lesson. Throughout our lives, there are many circumstances in which we're unable to bring to light, we're unable to realize the values, the ideals that we live with, the ideals that we have deep in our hearts. But circumstances are complex. We live in a convoluted world. We cannot always bring them to light fully, explicitly. And yet, we are charged with keeping them deep within our hearts, with reinforcing them, with ensuring that we don't lose the moral clarity, even though we live in a world which is hazy and blurred and cannot always reflect that moral clarity. Like Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu was unable to bring this to bear. He was silenced. He couldn't say it. Not to Leah, not to Lavan, not to Shimon and Levy, not to the brothers later on. He couldn't say it. And yet, he kept it firmly, solidly within his heart and was able to bring it to bear, was able to bring it to light on his deathbed when he gives this prophetic vision to his children. And the same thing for us. We experienced something of this week with the attack by Israel of Syria's air force and its fleet. Something that really we should have done decades ago, but we were unable to. We had to watch as an enemy nation, an enemy state, became strong and powerful and reinforced, and we had to work in ways that were convoluted, ways that did not reflect the true values that we kept strong. But now we had the opportunity, and we attacked and destroyed the tremendous power that had been amassed over decades. This is one example of how we, on a private, family level, communal level, but also on a national level, we have to maintain the moral compass. We cannot always bring it to light as we would like to, but we have to maintain it deep in our heart. We have to reinforce it. We have to ensure we don't lose it. And then when opportunity strikes, we're able to bring it to light, to actually manifest it in a full sense of the word, and to ensure that we live with a morality, with the clearness of vision, the clearness of the moral compass that directs us always. Halavai, we should know B'soros Tovos, we should know good tidings, and we should all have a wonderful Shabbos.